Welcome to the Next Level Facebook Ads Podcast with Phil Graham. We help you master Facebook ads and give you an unfair advantage over your competition. Are you ready? Let's go.
Hey, podcast family, welcome to the Next Level Facebook Ads Podcast, episode 286. I'm Phil Graham. I've got a great show for you guys today because I'm going to be sharing my top 4 Facebook ad headline formulas that you should be using today. Headlines in your ads can make the difference between failure or success when it comes to your ads. And so many advertisers are losing money because of their headlines. I don't want that to be you. And as usual, I'm going to keep this podcast full of value, short, sweet, and very actionable for you guys. Before we jump in, I just wanted to briefly mention Facebook's earnings. So Meta, Facebook, had their earnings just this last week, and I'm really happy with what I heard. So their monthly active users was 2.96 billion versus 2.94 billion that was expected. So they actually did better than what was expected for monthly active users, 2.96 billion. And then when you look at daily active users, Meta said they had 197 million daily active users in the third quarter of 2022. That's actually more than the 196 million that was in the third quarter of 2020 when everyone was home because of the pandemic. So Facebook, Meta is extremely powerful and strong. They have way more users than everyone, including TikTok and every other social platform. And so you doing Facebook ads and Instagram ads, that's a very good thing. That's a very smart thing. So I just wanted to share that data with you, and it's all good when it comes to ads. Now, if you guys want to get in touch, maybe you're looking for some one-on-one coaching so you can learn ads the right way. So many courses, really most of them are not very good, and a lot of them are just horrible. So courses are not a great way to go in most cases. So coaching can be really good for you, or if you're looking for somebody to run your ads for you, somebody you can trust. For either one of those things, coaching or done for you, you can contact me by going to my website, philgrahamdigital.com, or you can DM me on Instagram at philgrahamdigital. So with that being said, I want to jump right into this week's content, and I'm going to share the headline formulas that work so well for us. Headlines are so important and they make such a big difference because a lot of people, when they're scanning ads, they're scrolling, a lot of people will briefly look at a headline and decide based off of what they see if they want to engage with the ad or even look at what else is in the ad. Look at your ad copy or your image or watch your video. And if your headline is not equipped to grab people's attention quickly and get them to stop and pay attention, there's a good chance they're not going to see any other part of your ad at all. That's why you need to have headlines that are amazing. So many advertisers either use general basic headlines that don't work, or they try some different things, but they use headlines that are not effective. I don't want that to be you. I'm going to share my formula right now. There's 4 different things that I focus on when creating headlines. So let's start with number 1, and that is questions. Questions can be so powerful in headlines because when you read a question, you're actually kind of internalizing the question, and that can make a huge difference. And I've got a couple examples for you. For example, let's say, and the cool thing is you can turn practically any statement into a question just by adding a question mark. So for example, let's say I was going to run an ad that said, grow your business with Facebook ads. Well, instead of just making a statement, I could have a question mark at the end of that. Grow your business with Facebook ads? Anybody who's remotely interested in that, they're going to internalize that because I asked that question. And there's a good chance that they're going to actually want to look at the rest of my ads or the rest of my ad to see what I'm talking about, because I phrased it as a question. Another good one I've seen is your photos on a blanket. And this is from a company that creates blankets out of your images. And instead of just saying, hey, we put your photos on a blanket, your photos on a blanket as a question is a really good headline. Another example is like a random example is like, what is X worth to you? And X could be anything related to your product or service. And that would be a great question to ask. You just have to kind of plug the right thing in based off of what you do. Another one is from Lululemon. I really like this headline. And this headline says, shoes made for women first. Now, even without a question, I think that would be a good headline. But as a question, shoes made for women first, it really is interesting. And I think it's done extremely well because it's phrased as a question. So those are just a few different examples. What I want you to do is think about some important hooks and things that you might say, and how could you turn that into a question? And I want you to test that as a headline, because questions are one of the most powerful types of headlines that we use. Number 2 is curiosity. Curiosity can make such a huge difference when it comes to hooking people and getting them to engage with the rest of your ad. And some of the examples from the first formula, questions, were also curiosity. You can combine curiosity and questions to make a really powerful headline, which is really cool. So I've got some examples for you. The first example is from Headspace, and they are like a meditation kind of an app. And their headline says, why you should put your mind to bed. Why you should put your mind to bed. That's interesting. Like, for a lot of people, they would look at that and be curious. Well, what does that mean? And how can that benefit me? It's not a lot of words, but it generates a lot of curiosity. I think it's done very well for Headspace. Another option, like here's one that I've used that is true, and it's worked really well. One thing that Mark Cuban told me changed everything in my business. And that's true. It's not clickbait. Something he said literally changed everything that I did. And that would be a great example of curiosity. Another one is, you'll ditch regular makeup forever after trying this. And that was for a beauty brand of ours that we work with. You'll ditch regular makeup forever after trying this. Anybody who's using makeup is going to wonder, well, what do you mean ditch regular makeup forever? And trying what? I need to find out what this is. And we talk about why the makeup that this client sells will make you want to give up all the other makeup. And we do a great job of like communicating that, but we hook them with the curiosity, and that makes a big difference. Another thing you could use, like a general formula, is like the X you didn't know you needed. And so where the X is, you could plug in something that you offer, a product, a service, or some kind of an angle. But the what, the blank, you didn't know you needed. If you can plug in a good phrase or good word that relates to what you do, people are going to be so curious what that means. And then when you use curiosity, you want to give them more. You want to kind of satisfy that curiosity in the rest of the ad. You don't want it to be clickbait or anything like that. So you want to make sure that you give them the rest in the rest of the ad. But that can be very, very powerful. Okay, number 3, it's what I call the carrot and the stick. So the carrot is something that's good, and the stick is something that's bad. So people typically want good stuff and they want to avoid bad things. So the easiest way to kind of give you an example would be, giving somebody something good without the bad. So learn X without Y, or get X without Y. And X is whatever is the good that comes from your product or service. And without Y, the Y is the negative that you might help them overcome or avoid. For example, when it comes to ads, learn how to run profitable Facebook ads without being a slave to social media, for example, or without relying on hope and chance. That would be a great example of a benefit, running profitable ads. And then what most people want to avoid is they want to avoid having to rely on chance or hope or being a slave to social media and literally just always having to be on there. So that's a great example. Another great example is from Lululemon. It's really simple, but it works. They've got run now, pay later. And that was for a pair of shoes. They've also got shop now, pay later. That's pretty basic. However, people want to buy the product and not necessarily have to pay right now. So that's a good example of something good and avoiding what they don't want at the end, something bad. Another example is from Chipotle. Fresh ingredients without the bad stuff. You see how they use that word without? If you use that word without and then put a negative that you help people avoid, that can make a huge difference. So fresh ingredients without the bad stuff. Those two together are very, very powerful. So don't forget to have both the carrot, the good, and the stick, the bad, what you help them avoid, in the headline and in your ad copy. You want to make sure you never forget that, because most advertisers don't do that. And this can definitely be applied to any and every kind of business, whether you're a service business, a product business, an agency, a local business. You can always figure out how to apply this stuff so that it works for you. And then last but not least, inspiration. Inspiring headlines can do very well. One great example is from Nike. They say, our belief is never done. Our belief is never done. Now, that's not specific to a pair of shoes, but it elicits a feeling, an emotion from you when you see that. Our belief is never done. That's inspiring. That might get somebody to engage with the ad more. Another one is break free. That's from Nike as well. Another example is from Apple. Think different. That's powerful. Another one could be like a how-to, like how I built my $1 million agency from scratch. That could be another one, because that's inspiring and it's showing people how to do it. So looking for ways to use inspiration in your headlines is very powerful. So I'm going to give you a couple pro tips here at the end. Number one, combine some of these or all of these. You can definitely combine curiosity, questions, carrot and stick, and inspiration all into one potentially. And certainly in your ad copy, you can and should combine all of those things. So it's really powerful. So make sure you're combining these. You can also do separate ones as a test. Another thing I like to do is to use emojis in my headlines, because those help get attention when there's room for them. The other thing I do is I sometimes will purposely cut off the end of a headline to generate more curiosity. I don't always do that, but from time to time I test it, and that can work well. And when you're creating headlines, just remember, what's that self-interest? The people, your ideal audience who are reading and engaging with your ad, with your headline, what's in it for them? Why are they going to want to learn more? And also, if you can, don't forget about differentiation. Anytime you can differentiate, whether it's in a headline or your ad copy, that can make such a big difference. Now, one word of warning, don't just copy headlines or use competitors' headlines or look at what Apple's doing and just do what they're doing, because that probably won't work. What you want to do is you want to use these formulas. And I just gave you some examples so you could kind of see what I meant by these formulas, but use the formulas and plug in some of your own angles and copy and benefits and stuff like that. That's a lot of what I do for clients. So you want to make sure you customize it, but this framework, this formula is extremely powerful. So definitely use that. And so to recap, my friends, make sure you're using questions, curiosity, carrot and stick, and inspiration in your Facebook ad headlines, and you could be doing incredibly well when you do it right. Episode 286 is in the books. Thank you guys so much for listening. I appreciate you. I can't wait to bring you more value next week, and I will talk to you on the next episode. Peace out.
Thanks for listening to the Next Level Facebook Ads Podcast. Please remember to subscribe and share this with all your friends. For show notes, more tips, and to learn more about Phil, please visit philgrahamdigital.com/podcast.